There are tens, if not hundreds, of armor sets and items in Hypixel skyblock, and most of them are mech, but there are a few that stand out as being the best. But there are also a few that are hidden in the shadows that are surprisingly good. So now, what items and armor am I talking about? Well, you'll have to watch the end of the video, but there are timestamps, so you can skip around to see what interests you the most. First, let's start with some Mage Weapons. Recently, with the December update, they released the Glacial Scythe, which is an upgraded version of the Frozen Scythe, except this time, they decided, hey, you know what would be dope? Explosions! So now, arguably one of the most hated items in the game now has explosives attached to it. How could that go wrong in any way? But a lot of people are unsure how good it is and if it's worth the cost, which is why I'm going to be comparing it to both the Fire Veil and Spirit Scepter in and out of dungeons. But first, how much do these cost? Glacial Scythe is coming in with the top place here, with 55 million coins being the average for a decent one, followed up by Spirit Scepter for 25 million coins, and in the rear of the gear, we got Fire Veil Wand for 12 mil, which is obtained from the dumbest boss of all time, Ashfang. Like, dude is deadass a raid boss. You need 3 different types of damage, and this man regens enough to tank a whole ass bazooka. Don't even get me started on the amount of lag this causes in Crimson Isle lobbies. I just hate this man with a burning passion. First, for the setup, we're going to be using, again, 3/4 Aurora Wither Goggles. The item, we've got ourselves Bazaar with Intelligence Tuning and a Blaze Pet in Crimson Isles, and we'll be using a Sheep Pet in Dungeons. So first, let's start off with mana cost. Fire Veil costs the most, however, the thing that's unique about Fire Veil is the fact that it'll actually last for 5 seconds, so you're really only using 30 mana a second. But there is a way to make this cheaper. This is through the use of the subscribe button, which you should press right now because I'm sick, and subscribing will make me feel better. Also, you guys get like 200 mil for able to hit 21k by the end of January, so money for you, subscribe. Now let's actually test damage. Test off Glacial Scythe. We're doing 230,000 damage. Yeah, it looks like around 230,000 damage, which is not bad considering it only costs 38 mana. Next up we have Spirit Scepter, 281,000 damage. So Spirit Scepter is doing more than Glacial Scythe. It can fire faster, but it has a higher mana cost. And last but not least, Fire Veil, hitting for 820,000 damage every single hit, but they have to be right next to an area. Fire Veil is really good as a secondary mage weapon, but as your main mage weapon, it's not the best. Alright, so now we're in dungeons and we're playing as a solo mage, and we'll be testing all 3 of these weapons out. First, let me of course swap to the Sheep Pet. Yes, I know I'm not using Storm, bully me all you'd like. Alright, first let's start off with Glacial Scythe. We are doing what looks to be 800,000 damage. 900,000 damage. Let's run it from 8 to 900,000 damage, but it goes a long way. Like, I'm really shocked at how far this thing goes. Like, it still kills that. It goes all the way. 800,000 damage. Let's test the Spirit Scepter against a different mob. Looks like we're doing around 1 million damage to enemies as well. Yep, we're doing around 1 million damage, so better than the Glacial Scythe. But personally, I just like the way Glacial Scythe works better. It costs a lot less mana. You can spam it pretty much infinitely, and it goes such a long way. And now, last and certainly not least, Fire Veil. Keep in mind, other ones are doing around 1 million damage. Fire Veil, what was that? Is also doing around 1 million damage. So pretty much everywhere. In dungeons, these 3 weapons do very similar DPS. So in dungeons, it goes Spirit Scepter, Glacial Scythe, Fire Veil. Outside dungeons, I'm putting Fire Veil, Glacial Scythe, Spirit Scepter. Fire Veil is such a good weapon. It's hard to use it solo, but it is viable up to... I mean, I still use it with a hype. Like, Fire Veil is such a good weapon that can go with anything. Glacial Scythe, I find, is better than Spirit Scepter. Uses less mana and does around the same damage, and I kind of just like it more. Moral of the story, it really depends on what you're using it for, but they're all pretty good mage weapons. So, recently I maxed out my Tear with God Roll attributes, and it's looking very smexy. 10-star Burning Legion Dom 5 Vitality 5. This motherfucker looking hotter than yo mama. And yo mama looking so fine young Gravy would smash in the instant. But that's neither here nor there. But this armor set cost me a lot. But how good is it compared to 3/4 Frozen Blaze? First, obviously, how much did it cost? This Tear cost me ballpark 300 to 350 million coins. And it also cost me a lot of time to get the teeth needed. while the Frozen Blaze is coming in at around 90 to 100 million ballpark. So it's a lot more expensive, but was it worth the money? Now to the first damage comparison. Just for reference, pet is going to be Blaze. We're going to have Fortuitous with crit chance tuning. First, let's compare damage. Keep in mind, this is with Terror. Everything's normal. We are doing 320, 360, 370,000 damage. Let's see what it's like at 10 stacks. Looks like we're hitting for around 400,000, 391,000 damage with Terror, which is really, really good. Now let's talk to Frozen Blaze. Again, we're using the exact same thing. Exact same setup. If we go over here, keep in mind we're doing 391,000. We're doing 270,000 damage. So that is a very, very, very big difference, which is pretty crazy. Now for the next test, we're going to be killing Magma Cube and just seeing which takes longer to get the boss HP down to 20% or whatever it is. So first, we're going to start off with this Frozen Blaze armor. Alright, perfect. We just got him there. It's a full yellow bar, as we can see. Jumped in the middle. That took literally a minute. So now I'm going to find a different lobby and do the exact same test, except in Terror. Alright, found another boss. Lobbies are so laggy recently, but we got Terror armor equipped. Let's see how long this takes to get him down to the full bar. Holy shit, is this going a shit ton faster than Frozen Blaze. Alright, we're there. In literally 30 seconds. It literally took half the time to kill a magma boss in Terror than it did in Frozen Blaze. That is ridiculous. Beyond belief. Like, let's even test melee damage at this point. Like, Terror is just... Any Crimson once you get to this level is just so busted. Terror, keep in mind, we're doing 331,000 damage with a hype. And now we are in Frozen Blaze. Keep in mind, it's 331,000 to 200 and... That 230,000? Okay, well, that guy's hitting it. It's like 230,000 damage. So, Terror is shitting on Frozen Blaze in every aspect. That is insane. So I think this is most definitely worth the investment. Especially because now I can do Kudra without being called bad, and I'll finally have my 100 attack speed. Now we got accessory reforges. There is a lot of different ones, so I'm going to be comparing the best ones to tell you what you should get from Mage, DPS, or single hit. And by the way, these are gotten so many different ways, it's kind of interesting. Got anything from a demonic horn to a literal candy. But, you know, I'm not going to question. First, let's go over the Mage options for my boys out there. Alright, so now we'll be comparing accessory bag reforges. Recently I just bought Bazaar, so I'm going to be comparing Bazaar to Sighted. First, let's start off with some of the stats. I'm going to be using a Blaze Pet. I have 3/4 Burning Necrotic Armor with the Wither Goggles. I've got Tuning for Intelligence, pretty good hype, and we're going to be doing this test in the Crimson Isles. Let's start off with Bazaar. But if we right click, we're doing 1.96 million damage. We're doing around 2 million damage a hit. But we're doing around 2 million damage objectively. Now let's go and compare Sighted. Yeah, I know, I don't have an Abby phone. Deal, okay? But now we're gonna walk out here, right click damage. First off, we have around 200 mana last, it's not terribly shocking. Doing 1.9 million damage instead of 2 million damage, so around 100k difference. So now, in my opinion, is Bazaar worth it? Bazaar gives you anywhere from 150 to 300 additional mana than Sighted. So ask yourself if there's any possible way that you can get 150 to 300 extra mana for cheaper than 180 mil. If the answer is yes, do that. If the answer is no, you cannot get 300 more intelligence for cheaper than 180 mil, then buy Bazaar. Okay, so now for the DPS option. There is a lot more than the Mage, and it can be kind of hard to choose which one. So I made this handy dandy cheat sheet. Now, this doesn't always work, but it is still decent. Basically, you take all the damage stats, crit damage, crit chance, strength, and count those for 1 point. You then take all the ferocity and attack speed that a Power Stone gives and count those for 2 points. You then add up these two numbers, and this will be the score of the Power Stone. The higher the score, generally the more DPS you'll be able to do with that Power Stone. Obviously, this doesn't always work, but it's not a horrible system, okay? If you want to just check at first glance, not the worst. But the highest scoring reforges out there are Strong with 672, Hurtful with 637, and we'll also be comparing this against Bloody, which has 580 points. Just reference, 570 to 610 points is normal for 750 magic power. Now, it's not a perfect system, but let's still see what happens. So now let's do a damage comparison. First, I'm going to go with Bloody as a test reference. Bloody is a very good reforge, and it'll be our base comparison. Base comparison, I'm currently using Tiger Pet. We're doing 280,000 damage, it looks like. Keep in mind 280, and now let's swap to something like Hurtful. Keep in mind it was 280 with Bloody, which is a pretty standard one. Hurtful, 290 it looks like. Yep, 290. So it is obviously doing a lot more damage. 300 there, 290. I would consider that very good and better than Bloody by pretty much every means. And now for Strong. Keep in mind it was at 280 for Bloody, which is the base test we're using. We're doing 310 damage. That is a big increase in damage. We're averaging 310 damage every single hit, which is a lot more than Bloody. So the best pure damage reforge is Strong. However, Hurtful is the second best, as these are by far the best ones. Now for cost, obviously, so that's my personal recommendation for reforges. Take that however you will. And now finally, the thumbnail of the video, Rekindled Ember Armor compared to Frozen Blaze. Now right now you might be laughing your ass off thinking I can compare these two armor sets and have anywhere near the same results. I mean, one armor set is renowned to be pretty good and the other is generally considered dog shit and I've never seen a single person using them. But I'm going to compare these two and show you how good Rekindled Ember Armor actually is. I'm not saying it's better, but it's not bad. First, in all technicality, Ember Armor is free, but it does take time to get, as you need to kill 24 magma bosses. But if you really want to, you can skip this and just salvage Fire Fury staffs, in which case it'll cost you like 16 million coins-ish. But you will need the Magma Cube pet to go with it. But pro whip, the Magma Cube pet is just used for Slime AFK, and recently Slime AFK got patched. Yes, it is. But the Magma Cube pet also buffs the stats of the Ember Armor by 50%, making it the highest armor buffing pet in the game. This will cost you around 50 million coins, so 66 million coins for clean armor with level 100 pet. Now for Frozen Blaze. This armor will cost you around 120 mil with 60 mil-ish going for clean armor and 60 to 70 mil going for a level 100 Blaze pet. So it costs 2 times as much money, but is it worth the additional cost? First, let's start off with the stat comparison. Every single one of these pieces, enchants doesn't really matter, they both have a G5, P5, they are both recombobulated, and they both have the gemstone slots that are free available. Rekindled Ember gemstone slots are free, Frozen Blaze are not. As such, there's no gemstone slots in the Frozen Blaze. Every single piece has ancient on it, every single piece is recombobulated, every single piece is a start as high as I can go. Every single piece has hot potato books on it, with both the pants having fumings on it. I don't know why, they just do. So now let's do a test. Just for reference, I'm using bonus attack speed, we've got Bloody Reforge, and we have the Magma Cube pet and Blaze pet respectively, each with Dwarf Turtle Trauma on it, obviously a heroic Hyperion. First, start off with Rekindled Ember Armor. We're doing 200,000 damage a hit, it looks like. It looks like we're doing around 200,000 damage a hit with the Hyperion, pretty consistent, right? Now we swap to Frozen Blaze, we equip the Blaze pet, that 200,000 damage turns into 195,000 damage. So we are doing more damage outside of the Nether in Ember Armor than we are in Frozen Blaze. What the hell? That is ridiculous. Now let's compare the EHP. Outside, the EHP is getting us 44, almost 45,000. If we swap over to the Rekindled Ember Armor with the Magma Cube pet, we can see that it's giving us 40,000. So it's giving us less HP, but more DPS than Frozen Blaze outside of the Nether. Now let's check inside the Nether. In the Nether, we are doing 220,000 damage, looks like. Yeah, we're doing 220,000 damage to these Wither Specters. And if we go and switch to Frozen Blaze, that 220,000 damage becomes 250,000 damage? 280,000 damage. So it looks like we're hitting for around 50 to 40,000 more damage inside of the Nether against thermal mobs. Now, obviously, things need to be said here. If you're pairing these two sets together, Frozen Blaze is generally better in most circumstances. However, Rekindled Ember Armor is a lot, I mean a lot, cheaper to get than Frozen Blaze. but it's honestly not that bad, and I thought I might as well put it in here. Alright, and that's going to be it for today's video. We went over a bunch of different items and compared. Some of them surprised me, some of them weren't too shocking. Either way, if you enjoyed today's video, subscribe, like, check out my 0 to a Billion series, which I'll upload the final video on very soon.